brother. And you know what? Another thing I have to add to it, well, two things. One is that it's a matter of perspective too, right? Because the irony, people will go to college and be broke for 4 or 5 years for the opportunity to make a middle-class income. But then they be in their business for 3 months and not making the money they thought they made, and they're like, oh, this ain't gonna work, and I'm done. So where's the perspective there? Because it's like, oh, well, if you were in college doing that, you'd have been like, hey, this is what they expect, king of ramen noodles and all of that type of stuff. Business, you ready to give up if it didn't go exactly how you expected it to go. And the truth, like Carl said, it will never go exactly like how you expect it to go. So that's what really makes the difference between the winners in entrepreneurship and the losers. But you focus also on not just the person and how they can pivot and change, but how they lead teams through that pivot and change as well.
Yes.
Right. And explain that a little bit more. The leadership and what truly makes effective leadership. What does that look like overall?
Perfect. I'll tell you. So when it comes to leadership, I tell people what you've been brought up and taught with your daddy's leadership, right? Your grandparents' leadership, the school's leadership, right? Your pastor's leadership is all good. But when you're in the world of the entrepreneur, it's a little bit different, right? People are like, yeah, leadership, I get it. It's not so important because it talks about morality and being a good person and doing what you say you're going to do, because that's the definition of commitment long after the mood you set it in has left you. And they got all these amazing quotes and philosophical sayings. And I'm like, all right, that's okay. All right, fine. And that's a part of it. It is a part of it, right? You do have to be a good person, because your talent will take you where your character can't keep you, right? And so what happens is you got to have character. Otherwise, you could be talented, you could lock in deals, but if you're a shady person, people will catch on. No one will do business with you. You'll have a bad rep. So yeah, that's part of it. But the other part, when you're an entrepreneur, leadership is this, okay? Leadership is the ability to get the results that are expected of you, okay? Point blank, period. And how we know that is because the number one reason for business executives to get fired, right? These CEOs of major Fortune 500 companies, they get fired. The number one reason for why small business owners, medium-sized business owners, big businesses, why their businesses will fail is because they failed to execute. You were basically given some type of projection. You were given some type of target by the board. And you as a CEO of your company, if you're running it, right, which we're going to talk about your philosophy on that, which is great in a minute. But for most people, you're starting this off. You're the CEO. And if you're running it, there's a goal, there's a target, whether it's a quarterly target or a yearly target. And for big companies that have all the resources in the world, when they put someone in the highest leadership ranking position of that company, CEO, if you do not meet the objective, you are done. You're fired, right? They say, this is what we want this quarter, doesn't happen. This is what we want next quarter, doesn't happen. This is what we want for the year, doesn't happen. You're out, new CEO, you're in. Let's see if you can make it happen. And they will switch it up as many times as they can, because it takes leadership to make real change in a business. And here's what leadership is, right? You basically have the ability to create the results that are expected of you. And you do it through two things. One is decision-making. It's your job as the leader to make new decisions. And two, you got to be able to influence. These are the two skills. So decision-making is the core, because when you make a decision that you're going to do something, you set a goal and you say, here's going to be our plan of action. That's a decision. Because there's a million plans to be able to get to where you want to go. You have a final destination. There's a million paths that you could take, right? You could take slow paths. You could take faster paths. So what happens is the leader, the business owner, right? Your job is to make new decisions constantly. When you run into problems, it's, okay, we got to make a decision on how we're going to handle it. Who's going to handle it? What strategy are they going to use? And how are we going to come back to make sure that it's followed through? It's all decision-making at the end of the day. It's your most powerful tool. But number two, if you don't have the ability to influence, you can't do it, okay? So we're constantly using our decision-making power and our influence to solve problems, to maximize resources, and to build and develop other leaders. And when you do that, you actually become a bona fide business leader. You can actually become a business leader of tomorrow. So you have to be able to produce those results regardless of where you're at in your company.